Great. Good morning and Happy New Year to everyone. The time is now 10:02. I'm Polo Robertson, Chair of the Social Equity Council. And at this time, I'd like to call our meeting to order and welcome the public, our Social Equity Council members, and all our state agencies, along with licensees, applicants, and those who support the SEC. We continue to work on building and supporting those communities that have been impacted by the war on drugs and look toward pursuing reinvestment to create generational wealth for the future. And at this time, on behalf of the council, I'd like to thank Mark Opelka, who has taken another role for his dedication and years of work on the SEC and truly being a pioneer and setting the stage for success and contributing to this organization. So we wish him well in his new role. And at the same time, we'd also like to welcome Maurice Reeves with the Office of Policy and Management and bringing a wealth of support and insight to our meeting today. So hopefully more from there. I hadn't prepped Maurice, but Maurice, if you'd like an opportunity to say hello or anything, here's your moment.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you all. Good morning. I look forward to working with you all. I see a few familiar faces, but I look forward to getting to know you all while I am in this position. I do also want to take a quick second to thank Mark as well. He's, as the chair mentioned, he's one of the more dedicated state employees that I've come across. He's always prepared. He's been countless hours trying to be as knowledgeable and informed on any and all of the issues that came across his desk. So, and I will miss him terribly on a personal level. He's one of the more kind and compassionate people I have met. So, but he's going to a good place. I don't know if he's publicly announced it yet, but he will still be working for the state. So we're still lucky to have him. And but thank you all, and I look forward to working with you all in the future.
Great, thank you and welcome. So this time I'd like to call the attendance. Let's start with Andrea Comer.
Present.
Andrea Hawkins.
Present.
Avery Gaddis.
Here.
Corey Betts.
Present.
Edwin Shirley.
Present.
Kevin Walton. Kelly Marie Valeris.
Present.
Maurice Reeves.
Present.
Melvin Medina. Michael Jefferson.
Present.
Ojala Naeem.
Present.
Let's see, Shirley Skyers Thomas.
Present.
Okay. At this time, I'd like to move for the approval of the December 5th, 2023 Social Equity Council meeting minutes. May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion?
Yes, through
All
you,
in
Mr.
favor?
Chair.
Pardon me?
Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair. You said if there was discussion.
Yes.
The title of the document says Social Equity Council Policy Committee meeting draft, but it's actually for the full council meeting. We could just make that adjustment.
Okay, thank you. Will do. Okay, if we could continue. All in favor?
Aye,
Aye.
as amended.
As amended, thank you. Any opposed? Abstentions? The motion carries. The minutes have been approved and accepted, and at this time, we'd like to move into executive session to discuss pending litigation. I may have a motion to move to executive session.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
any discussion? Any opposed? Abstentions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, aye. Thank you. Members have received a Teams link for the executive session, and members have the option of leaving the Zoom meeting and logging back in after the executive session, or muting the Zoom meeting and opening the link in Teams. For the members of the public, we will return shortly, and we thank you for your patience. And we'll be back in a few. Thank you. time, we return from executive session. Once again, I'd like to take attendance to ensure we have a quorum. Andrea Comer,
Present.
Andrea Hawkins,
Present.
Avery Gaddis,
Here.
Corey Betts, Ed Shirley, Kelly Marie Valeris,
Present.
Kevin Walton, Maurice Reeves,
Present.
Michael Jefferson,
We're moving Councilmember Jefferson over.
okay, thank you. Kevin Walton,
All right, I think it's getting me. Chairman.
we'll try again. Kevin Walton, Michael Jefferson,
Present. Thank you.
Shirley Skyers Thomas,
Present.
Ojala Naeem,
Present.
Sabira Gordon.
Present.
Okay, thank you. We have a quorum, and I guess now we will move to voting on a social equity plan. May I have a motion to approve ACDS 001213 High Acres Delivery LLC
So
for
moved.
approval? Second,
So moved.
can I get a second?
I got one.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Abstentions? The motion carries. On the second vote on a social equity application recommended for denial, we have ACRE 0015683 C3 EJV LLC and AMHF 0008278 Sweet Spot Stamford for denial. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion carries. At this time, I'd like to now go to our executive director's report. Executive Director Fay. You're on mute.
Sorry about that. Hello, thank you very much, and Happy New Year to everyone. We're going to share my report on screen, and I can go over it with you at a high level and answer any questions that you may have. Anna, can you share the report? Okay, I think we can catch up to it. I think you have it. It was sent to you. If you could pull it up, while Anna is working on pulling it up for the visual. So in my report this month, in my normal table of contents, I do a staffing update, program updates, what's new, and the goals for the month. So as far as our staffing update is concerned, we are posting for a legal program director to replace our staff attorney 2, who left to go to another agency. And in many discussions, it was determined that we need a higher level counsel representation than a staff attorney 2, not to take anything away from our previous staff attorney who did a wonderful job for us. But we do need someone with more extensive experience. So I'm working with HR to create that position. I've done all of what they've asked me to do, and that was to edit the job description that is, so job descriptions kind of go to a specific agency or they're general. And this particular job posting or this job description is for 2 state agencies, and I'm asking the Human Resources Department to include the Social Equity Council as an agency that can use this title. One of the reasons also is because we're APO'd at the Department of Economic and Community Development, our job counts go with the DECD job counts. So we went originally to go for an executive assistant for a legal program director, but because the DECD already has a legal legal director, we were not able to use that title. Thank you, Em. And then under program manager, so we're looking to hire a program manager for workforce development and training. And that person would work very closely with the program manager from the Office of Workforce Strategy. So the SEC program manager will work with the sector, meaning working with the businesses to determine their workforce needs and training credentials. And then the Office of Workforce Strategy program manager will work with the industry to create those programs that are needed by the companies. And then a research analyst to collect all of the data for the work that the council is doing. So data on impact, data on any kind of work that we're doing. We want to be able to collect the data so that we can tell the story and interpret that data and provide reports and updates on all of the good work that the council is doing. So I don't know if anybody has any questions on those positions, but we were approved by the council to hire up to 13. This would represent 12.
Councilwoman Comer?
Yes, thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. So the legal program director position, I know in the job classifications, it's listed under DCP as well as the Office of Early Childhood. So just curious as to what needs to happen so that DECD also, and by way of DCD, the SEC is included in that classification.
So in having conversations with some other legal experts, this was the position that we felt most matched the needs of the council at this time. So what I had to do was I had to go through this job description and I had to add anything that might be unique to the council. So I had to add, I can't even think of the edits that I made, but I definitely had to add the Social Equity Council. I had to add the Department of Economic and Community Development as to be used. I am happy to send you over the edited job description that I did submit for consideration to provide you with more detail. I don't remember off the top of my head the exact.
Yeah, so it's not, thank you, but it's not the job description. It's actually the job classification. So the state has a list of job classifications and certain positions are focused for certain agencies. In the case of the legal program director, it is listed through the Department of Consumer Protection and the Office of Early Childhood. DCD is not included in that list. So my question is, what needs to happen so that DECD is added to this classification description so that we can in fact fill this position as stated?
Yeah, so one of the things was to edit the job posting or the job description to include Office of Early Childhood, DCP, and the Department of Economic and Community Development. And then HR would decide if the edits work. So I'm doing what I was asked to do by HR. And that was, again, to add the DECD to it, and then anything that matched. So, and like I said, I don't remember off the top of my head exactly what the edits were. I'm happy to send that over to you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I just want to make sure that we're not, sort of posting for a position that we then can't fill because it's not part of the classification. So I imagine that maybe Office of Labor Relations needs to sign off or something. I don't know, but.
And that's exactly what they're doing. So we revised that classification to include the DECD. Office of HR would approve that, and then DECD could use that class.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't have that. It was a couple of weeks ago that I did.
No worries.
Okay. So for our program updates on our business loan fund, on the community reinvestment and community conversations, the next slide will give you an update on our Canada Business Revolving Loan Fund. So the applications we have so far are 16 applications to the fund, and the average request for funding is $500,000 per application. So we're working with the DECD very closely to review and underwrite those requests, and we're moving that program forward. As far as the community reinvestment, so some of the things that we're working on based on our last committee meeting is the grant process. So we're looking at the best practices from our pilot program, and we're going to be adding some recommendations from the council to the grant making process. And we're working on that right now. the grantee eligibility requirements. So who can apply? We're looking at focusing on that a little bit more. Recommended grant caps, making recommendations on a minimum and maximum award of grants for particular categories. The use of funds. So we want to make sure that the use of funds are impactful and they are based on a sustainable approach to awarding funds. And then identification of community partners in the areas of leveraging the funds that we have now to programs that already exist. And then updating, which is ongoing, the reinvestment timeline to make sure that we are moving in the timeline that we have set for this activity. Social equity plans. So in the month of November, we approved 2 social equity plans. In the month of December, we approved 1. And then workforce development plans, we approved 1. And understand that as far as the workforce development plans, we were using Home Resdic temporarily until we hired a workforce program manager, which we have now in Tiffany. And Tiffany has now taken over the responsibility of reviewing and making recommendations for workforce development plan approval. So in this month, which I'll report in February, she's already reviewed and made recommendations for 6 plans to be approved. And then we have several more in January that we've approved as well. But the social equity plans and workforce development plans are coming in at a steady pace, and we're moving forward in reviewing them. In community conversations, we are now beginning the second round of community conversations. So we have identified trusted messengers in New London and Stanford, and we'll begin a PSA process with them immediately. As far as the RFP is concerned, we have now posted that RFP to our website, and we will leave it open as we continue to look for and recruit trusted messengers in the other communities. We want to have conversations in all of these communities, and we want to find people who are local and who are considered trusted messengers. We're also reaching out to the municipality itself. We talked to the folks down in Norwalk who are very, very much interested in helping to coordinate the community conversation. So we're moving forward with them, as well as Bristol. I've spoken with the mayor of Bristol. So most of these communities are very anxious to participate in any way they can to have the conversation. So we'll be moving in a little bit closer on the municipal officials to help us with getting the conversations off the ground. So the timeline for the second round of community conversations is between January and March, if we can identify trusted messengers and get those conversations going. As you recall, we had a round 1 of conversations in Waterbury, New Haven, and Hartford, and we are expecting those final reports to be reported out to you or sent to you in the next week or so, couple of weeks or so. So the goals for office is to update the reinvestment plan. Again, that is ongoing. We want to complete the personal services agreement for the community conversations for Oaksterdam University and the marketing firm that we plan to hire to assist with the pre-lottery education that I mentioned. We are expecting that the DCP may have a lottery in 2024. And so we're moving into the communities to educate them on the lottery itself, the criteria for applying as a social equity applicant, and documentation that you will need to start collecting if you plan to apply for a seat or a ticket in the lottery. Updated the social equity, Office of Social Equity org chart. I sent that out to all of you for a review, and that's to reflect the 3 positions that will be posted. And we're also planning to complete our outreach plan, which is in the process. We're kind of doing the budgeting piece and then looking for some other fine opportunities for the council. And then again, completing the pre-lottery education and outreach technical assistance. So it's completing the information that will be made available to the public. And then on our committee reports, we've got outreach is meeting on the 12th, reinvestment on the 17th, policy and governance on the 18th, and the finance committee is meeting later today. And the next planned council meeting is February 6th. And we are working on and looking forward to a newsletter in the spring. So we're collecting information, we're collecting data from the pilot program, from the community conversations, and we will put those in our spring newsletter. That is my report. I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Gary, you're on mute. Chairman, you're on mute. You're still on mute.
Apologies. We now hear from the committee reports. If we could hear from Chairman Shirley and the Policy Committee. Chairman Shirley. Then let us move to governance. The Governance Committee.
I believe policy and governance are one.
Okay, can we hear from you? Naeem?
Sure thing. Not a whole ton to update on the reinvestment and workforce development front. I know Director Clay covered a fair deal within her executive director's report. We do have a meeting coming up next week. It was originally scheduled for the 17th, but we have requested to move that by a couple of days to the 19th. So for committee members, please do check your inboxes and make sure that that time works for you. But the goal really is to get a bit more of a finalized proposal on, you know, how we want to move forward based on the timeline that was presented to the committee back in November and December. So other than that, no other major updates on our front.
Great, thank you. Questions, comments? Thank you, Councilman Naeem. The Reinvestment and Workforce Committee.
That was me.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm looking. We still haven't heard from the Policy and Governance. Let's go to Finance if we could at this time.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. The Finance Committee met on December 13th, at which time we were provided an expenditure report that outlined the following. As of November 30th, $495,920 had been spent on personal services, which is salary and fringe, $365,025 for other expensive contracts agreements, totaling $860,945. As of the end of November, there was a remaining balance of roughly $4.9 million. During that meeting, Director Clay advised that $350,000 was added to CohnReznick's contract, and that a little over $749,000 was added for the new Oaksterdam University agreement. In addition, due to possible lottery lawsuits, Transcription Plus's agreement was increased to just under $30,000. Year to date, nothing had been spent from the $350,000 budgeted for secondary marketing, branding, and sponsorships, and no funds had been expended from the Community Reinvestment Program Workforce Development line, which currently holds just over $1 million. So given that we are past the midpoint of the fiscal year, I asked Director Clay to provide clarity on the plans to expend those funds, as well as for a budget narrative to provide context on how the budget lines were determined. The request was due in part to shifts in the line item amounts from one month to the next. So the Finance Committee will meet this afternoon to receive an update from Director Clay on those issues, as well as to review year-to-date expenditures as of December 31st. I do want to note, though, that the materials we received for the Finance Committee meeting this afternoon, I have some concerns with. As the designee for the state treasurer, who's fiduciary of state funds, And as chair of this body's finance committee, I feel like I'd be remiss if I didn't question the thinking around some of the expenditures, particularly in the absence of a fully fleshed out and approved marketing plan. I've always found that from a planning perspective, like it's best to begin with the end in mind. And absent that approach, it's unclear to me what our goal is in making these expenditures. So for instance, I don't understand the need for branded coffee sleeves, stickers for pizza or restaurant boxes, or printed balloons. I don't understand the need to spend tens of thousands of dollars to sponsor cannabis conferences, purchase space on digital billboards or transit marketing. And I don't understand spending more than $500,000 for community conversations, particularly when we as a body have not yet received a report on the findings of the first round of conversations to inform reinvestment. Although I did hear Director Clay say today that that would be forthcoming. So, bottom line, $750,000 that could be going back into impacted communities in a meaningful way is instead being spent on marketing without a strategic plan. So I'm hoping to gain some insight on the rationale, and I look forward to a robust conversation this afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilwoman Comer. Councilwoman Gordon. You're on mute.
Sorry, I was on mute. I'm not sure if this question is for Councilwoman Comer or Executive Director Clay, but as I think I share some similar concerns to you on the marketing plan. I think we've been trying to do this for a while. How do we, I'm not sure we've gotten input either from the outreach committee on these funds and what we think would make the most sense. So as far as revisiting that plan, I'm not sure if I should be talking to you, Chairwoman Comer. I should be talking to the Executive Director to talk about those, at least discuss what we think would be a better use of resources.
Thank you, Councilwoman Gordon. Councilman Jefferson.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. The question is to Councilwoman Comer. Can these or the Executive Director, whoever can answer, can these funds be shifted to reinvestment? Because I know workforce development had a difficult time, and one of the problems was the federal stipulations that prevented us from working with the regional workforce councils. I think they do a phenomenal job for training and whatever have you, and we couldn't spend the funds with them because that would have basically taken care of that problem. But I know there was some universities, some colleges that were offering training and whatnot for workforce development. Now, if we can't use the money for that, can it be shifted for reinvestment purposes, since workforce development and reinvestment are basically one and the same now, from a committee perspective?
So, I mean, through you, Mr. Chair, I raised these issues just as chair of the finance committee. I mean, I certainly don't want to make a unilateral decision in terms of where the money goes. My understanding is that in terms of moving money from line item to line item, the one that requires approval are around personnel. And there is, and Councilman Reeves, just from an OPM perspective, if there's more context you can provide, I would welcome that. But in terms of the other line items, I believe that the number is the number. And so however things need to be moved can be, with the exception of personnel. But again, I don't want to say that that's gospel. That's my understanding. And so it certainly could be not the case, but I do hear you. And I think more than anything, I am just, I find myself feeling increasingly anxious that we don't yet have a plan to determine, are these, because this may make sense. These proposed expenditures may make sense. I just don't know, because I don't know what it is that we are trying to achieve and what we're trying to accomplish. And absent that, it just seems like we're spending money and there's not necessarily a plan around that.
Thank you, Councilwoman Comer. As a matter of fact, I will go to Executive Director Clay, and then I will go to Councilwoman Valeris. Executive Director Clay. You're on mute.
When I see myself, I think I can hear myself. So apologize for that. So with the outreach plan, we are still working on that. We only got our outreach program manager about 6 weeks ago. And she immediately jumped into the community conversations. So we indicated that by the end of January, we would have a more defined outreach plan. I know that she and our legislative program manager are working on getting some numbers as far as the budget is concerned, and also looking at other opportunities. Our focus for the outreach is to make sure that we get to those people who are marginalized and are deep in the maybe in the trenches of various communities, and making sure that we can educate them, especially on the upcoming lottery, the criteria, as well as workforce development opportunities and programs that we want to develop. So I'm not going to steal Councilwoman Valerisa's thunder. So we've had several conversations around workforce and workforce development and criteria. So I'm going to let her go ahead and answer that. But we are most definitely working on an outreach plan and looking at the focus of who we need to reach and why we need to reach them and how we need to reach them.
Thank you, Executive Director Clay. We're going to go to Councilwoman Valeris.
I believe that Councilwoman Gordon may have been in front of me if she would rather first.
Councilwoman Gordon, I didn't know if she still had her hand up or if that was a new request. Councilwoman
No,
Gordon.
I'm not sure the executive director addressed my question. I know the outreach person has been in for a few weeks. There are not community conversations every day. I think I'm just concerned about timing. I'm concerned about the fact that, we've known what we've needed to do. I would have expected that she would have gotten some direction from the executive director, or at least asked the committee for some feedback on an outreach plan. I think I've created, maybe a year ago, I created an outreach plan that that was in draft form. That when we had feedback with the legislative program director. I'm just concerned about timing. There's money to be spent. There are things that need to be done. I'm not sure Tchotchke is where the resources need to go. I think we really need to invest in social media outreach for the upcoming lottery. I think there are things we need to do. So that is very concerning to me. And I will flag again that we've been having this conversation. I'm sure the committee, I'm not going to speak for them, but are happy to carve out some time to finalize this plan, because I'm about to roll off of this council in 5 months or 6 months. And I feel like we haven't been able to get this done. So I just want to flag my concern and offer for the millionth time my help in creating an outreach plan, because I think we continue to drag our feet here, and I know our committee knows what we need to do. So I'd love to see that get done.
Thank you, Councilwoman Gordon. Now Councilwoman Valeris.
Thank you, Chair Robertson. I do also share the same concerns on the outreach in community conversations. That's a significant amount of funding, and understanding the difference between outreach and community conversations would be good to know. I think there's maybe too much in that bucket without unpacking it. It's hard to determine what is outreach and what money isn't being invested in community conversations. So I'd like to get more information on that. With regard to community investment program and workforce development, I've been having conversations with the executive director Clay on the hiring of Oaksterdam to do some high level kind of programming with people who are interested in being part of the cannabis industry. It's very specific, focused training. And we're working to bring in partners, because this is an online program, and we know that self-paced online programs do not have robust outcomes. So we're working to bring in an organization that can bring people together in a cohort group. It's place-based, even though it's online, and it has a facilitator and the support mechanisms around it. As we continue to work with our community college system and other stakeholder groups, on developing specific cannabis workforce training programs that are in demand. So some of the work that we've been doing with our new program manager is to get some consensus around the different employers, with whether they're producers, manufacturers, or retail or logistics, over what is the most in-demand jobs that they have to fill now, and what are the skills, the knowledge, skills, and abilities that people have to perform to be able to fill those jobs, and then working with program providers to develop content around that. So now that we have a full-time person, that work will begin in earnest. And we've already had some conversations over identifying some different types of tools that are used to help determine what those critical knowledge, skills, and abilities are that turn into curriculum. So there's work being done there. But I would appreciate probably a more detailed breakdown of the overall line expenses, so that we all have a little bit better understanding of how much money is being spent on what. And to your point, Councilman Jefferson, these are some of this investment is to actually develop funding, to develop, workforce development programming here in Connecticut. We know these online programs, as great as they are, don't have the level of success as cohort groups have. So we're working on that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Villers. Any other comments? Questions? I just want to make sure I covered, Councilwoman Jefferson.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I received an agenda, if no one has any further questions for outreach. That was finance. But I received an agenda. It had personnel committee on it, and then it was a revised agenda that went out that removed the personnel committee. And so if it's the pleasure of the chair not to give a report, I won't. But I was just curious as to why the personnel committee was not asked to give a report on the latest agenda that went. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you for bringing that to attention. There were a couple of items that we wanted to review that were basically driven by HR, that had asked for some information that I felt that if I could meet with the personnel committee and go through, we would bring it up on the next meeting.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Jefferson. Any other further comments? Shall we move for the good of order? New business updates, any other information that we'd want to bring forth? Then I don't see Councilman Gaddis to give us our cue. But with that in mind, I would move to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Happy New Year to everyone, and I look forward to a really productive year.